Dream Theater drummer Mike Portnoy is considered by some to be one of the greatest drummers around today, so it probably seemed like the worst person to choose if you were an imposter. The story starts in 2003. People around New York City started noticing a man claiming to be Portnoy who was heavily medicated and intoxicated wandering around the city. Soon enough, the drummer's website would be inundated with stories from people who met the imposter. The first story that surfaced about the imposter involved a man named Carlin Langley who went up to a gay bar in New York City around February of 2003. It was there that Langley met a man claiming to be Portnoy. Langley, who had never heard of Dream Theater or Portnoy, would tell the New York Post, "He told me he'd just come back from Japan where he'd signed an endorsement deal with a drum manufacturer. He had a lot of detailed information about Portnoy's life, he'd remember." After several drinks, the pair returned to Langley's apartment where they were intimate. And according to the New York Post, the next morning, the imposter had left the apartment with both of Langley's cell phones, his keys, and wallet. And when Langley called the bank, he discovered the imposter had already racked up $1,000 in credit card bills. Langley would find Mike Portnoy's real website and email the drummer, letting him know someone was impersonating him around the city. Soon enough, more gay men would come forward detailing their encounters with the impersonator. According to DreamTheater.net, one person who came in contact with the imposter would claim, and I quote, "I wanted to somehow get word to Mike that there's a guy in New York City who is pretending to be Mike, picking guys up at bars, restaurants, and on the street, convincing them that he's Mike Portnoy, the world-famous drummer from Dream Theater. He has all their music CDs, knows every beat of every song, and has Mike's schedule, both past and present, down to a T. He says he's been struggling with his sexuality lately." And it wasn't only gay men that the impersonator fooled, as it was other musicians as well. The New York Post detailed a music promoter and singer named Ray Freeman, who fronted a band called Block 16. He met the imposter at a bar called Finally Fred's, and it would turn out that Freeman's band was in need of a drummer, and the imposter jumped at the chance to jump behind the drum kit. According to Finally Fred's bartender who told the Post, he drank here all week but never paid his tab, which amounted to $70. And when Freeman saw the imposter again, he would tell the Post, "He told us that his mother was dying of cancer, his wife was divorcing him, and that Dream Theater had cancelled its tour because of the Iraq War, so I kind of felt sorry for him." Freeman and his band members from Block 16 felt so bad for the fake Portnoy that they let him sleep on their couches. When it came time for them to jam with the imposter, it was apparent from the start he wasn't a drummer. On March 28, 2003, at their first rehearsal, Freeman recalled, "He was, and I quote, without his own sticks and any of the charts he'd said he'd written." Freeman described the impersonator's drumming as worse than my grandmother. That's when Freeman became suspicious, and while the imposter bore some resemblance to the real Mike Portnoy, that's when Freeman started to find photos of the real drummer and look at his tattoos and compared them to the imposter, and he soon realized that something wasn't right. Soon enough, Freeman found Portnoy's website and emailed the drummer, letting him know that someone was impersonating him. Freeman also noticed that some of his possessions were missing, including a vintage Les Paul guitar, his gold chain, and a set of house keys. And on April Fool's Day 2003, Freeman called the police, and soon enough, the authorities questioned the imposter, who turned out to be a man named Carlos Mendez. Mendez claimed to the authorities that he was the real Mike Portnoy, but soon after, the police took Mendez down to the police station where the real Mike Portnoy was waiting. Mendez would be charged with criminal impersonation and grand larceny, with bail being set at $100,000. But the story doesn't end there. One day following the arrest, a message would be posted on Dream Theater's website claiming that more than 4 victims came forward within a 48-hour period. It would also come out around this time that, according to Blabbermouth, another musician fell for Mendez's scam. It would be guitarist Chris Cafferty, who played in the band Savatage, who took to his own website and posted his own meeting with Mendez, revealing that even though Savatage played on the same bill as Dream Theater in the past, he had never met Portnoy in person. He would also go on to say, "A few days later in the city, I was introduced to who was supposed to be Mike. The guy had the whole bar fooled. He obviously did a whole bunch of research on Mike and his career and family. He apparently had stolen his wallet and cell phone. He had his ID, so who was to know? The guy knew very serious business details and family members of Mike's. He was even recognized by people as Mike Portnoy when I was with him. He held phone conversations on my phone with supposed mutual friends." But it wasn't until Cafferty got into a room to jam with Mendez that he realized the man was an imposter because he couldn't play the drums. Cafferty would also go on to reveal that Mendez went as far as to contact drum companies and get free products sent to him using Portnoy's name. Things wouldn't end there though, as in 2006 Mendez resurfaced and Portnoy would take to the internet to warn people about emails he'd received about Mendez impersonating him once again. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories.